spelling and pronunciation support each other, and once you know both the sounds and the symbols, they'll help each other. So once you see how it's written, you'll know how to pronounce it. If you know how to pronounce it, you should know how to spell it. So here's our vowels. We have a, e, o, u. These are oral vowels. We also have nasal vowels. These are similar, but it's kind of more through your nose. That's why they're nasal, and they're marked with this N with the tail. And this is pretty common amongst other orthographies as well. So en, I, and un. En, I, un. And it's important to mark that nasal sound because it can change a word. So ska is white, and scone is to melt. So someone said like waki ska, no, snow is white. Waki scone, the snow is melting. So they're very different. So when you want to be clear when you're writing and when you're speaking to make sure that that's differentiated. Ska versus scone. Ga, gon, ku, kun, unkupi, unkumpi, kichu, kichun, taha, tahan, uyapi, uyampi, I, in, he, wayaka, wayanka, kata, and kanta. So all these without that nasal would be spelled the same, but they shouldn't be because they're pronounced different and they have different meanings. Okay, over these vowels, whether it's an oral vowel or a nasal vowel, you're sometimes going to see this little marking over that. And this marking can be called, it could be called stress, it could be called an accent, whatever you want to call it. It's important to know what it means, and it tells you which syllable in the word to kind of put an emphasis on, to say it louder and a little bit stronger, maybe a little higher pitched, and that helps you with correct Lakota pronunciation. And so these are all where these are all words where you'll see that stress mark on the first syllable of the word. And so here you see this, it's not shuga, you know that this word here, this stress mark is on the first syllable, so it's shunka, mila, wichazo, iya, wiatke, wowapi, hunku, hihani. This is one that I had wrong for most of my life. I would always say hihani washte, but that was wrong. And I never realized it, never noticed it, never thought to even listen to see where the stress mark was or where the stress was when our native elders and stuff would say it. And it's now that I listen for it, I hear that it's true that they do say hihani, sapa, iotake, hunkpapha, wowashi, numpa, zapta. So you guys all hear that? You hear that stress in that first syllable? Step. Okay, so here's a list of some words where it's the second syllable stress. And you'll see that difference here. So there's no stress mark over the first I, it's over the second syllable on the A. So this is chinshka, wakshicha, miniskuya, chahampi, aguyapi, washte. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I hear a lot of non-natives come to the res and they learn this word washte, but I don't know what it is. They always get the stress wrong, and it always just sounds kind of awkward. And they say lila washte, lila washte, and we all know, like all of us who live in Lakota communities or who have lived in Lakota communities know that kind of sounds awkward, kind of sounds off. So what sounds off there is the stress. It's not washte, it's washte, washte, chante, Lakota, Oglala, Shina, Uhomini, olota, igmu, iyuha, waziata. So everybody hears that second syllable stress in these when I say them?
Yeah.
Oh, step. So here's again a list of words that otherwise would look the same. They're spelled the same, but they're pronounced differently. And so when you mark the stress, then you'll see it's clear which one is meant. So Lena, that means right here, Lena. Whereas Lena means these, Lena. But if it wasn't for that stress mark, we wouldn't know which one someone meant unless we heard it. And so the written should reflect the proper enunciation and the meaning. So Lena versus Lena, Hena, Hena, Umashi, Umashi, Untumpi, Untumpi, Wopta, Wopta, Hotanka, Hotanka, Wapia, Wapia, Ohan, Ohan. So these are all legitimate Lakota words with their own meaning, and they're all different meaning from the other one. The only difference, though, in the spelling is the stress mark. So do you guys think it's important to mark that stress after learning this?
Yeah. Okay.
So we can look at more words and figure out where the stress is. So we'll just do a few of these. We don't have to do all of them, but egnake. Which syllable is the stress on, first or second?
First.
First, egnake. We already did honey in the other slide. How about chtayetu? Chtayetu.
Second.
Second syllable. Waziata.
Second.
Second.
Sichangu.
Second.
Second.
Full
You guys ever hear anyone say Sichangu? It would sound weird, right? Sichangu. Sihasapa.
Second.
Second.
First.
Hunkpapa. First. We'll stop there. I think you guys got it. So it's a pretty helpful tool that I never realized was important until I saw someone present this slide to me. And that was about 5 years ago now. So I had no idea that stress was even a thing that mattered or was important in proper Lakota enunciation. So yeah, other consonants in the alphabet that are really easy to learn because they're the same as in English are these ones: B, H, L, M, N, S, W, and Z. They just make the regular sounds. B, H, La, Ma, Na, S, W, and Z. So pretty easy. Okay, so you're gonna see two different types of S's. The plain S is just like the English S, SNE. When you see this little marking here, some folks in Standing Rock, they decided to give this a Lakota name. In English, it's called a wedge or a hatchet. But in Lakota, they started calling it a wablushka. Wablushka, like a little bug. Wablushka. So when you see the S with the wablushka on there, instead of SNE, it's going to be shni. Shni. So it's almost like a SH sound. Sh. Shni. And that's important because you can see SNE means it's cold. Shni means not. Sapa means something's black. Shapa means it is dirty. Skan means it is melted or melting. And shkan means to act or to do something. You're going to see two Z's, a plain Z, which is the Z sound. And then you're going to see a Z with the wablushka, which makes a J sound. Other orthographies will use a J for that sound. So you might have seen wojapi or pejuta with a J. In this orthography, we use a Z with the wablushka. And the history of that comes from Ella Deloria used the Z. and even before her, I think the first ever to write down the Dakota language was a missionary named what is his name? I can't remember the first name, but it's Riggs, and they use the Z too for the J sound. So it dates back to the 1800s. It's not really anything new. But we're all familiar with the J, which was used by Eugene Buchel, another missionary from Rosebud. So Z and J. So Z means something's yellow. J means it's tawny. Zicha is a squirrel. Jicha is to be wealthy. Gazo is to draw a line, and believe it or not, gajo has another meaning than we all know. It also means the wind is whistling, as well as what you guys are thinking. So any questions on S's or Z's and the Wablushka?
Here.
Stelo. Okay, you're gonna also see two other letters with the Wablushka on there, and that's the H, which is gonna be a guttural H, and the G, which changes it to a guttural G. So guttural H is gonna be more at the top of your throat. Kha, kha, kha. So it's kind of like more at the, like I said, at the top of your throat, whereas ran is kind of more toward the bottom of your throat. I like to think about it like the way I've explained it to other students is the guttural H is more like when you're disgusted with something, like yuck, yuck, ugh. And then the guttural G is like when you're gargling water or something, like when you brush your teeth. Ugh, ugh. So khan is to have a sore, and ran is to have messy hair. So you want to try to practice these sounds so that you are differentiating those two sounds, because they can be very similar to English speakers. Khan and ran. Chopa is to be attractive. Ropa is to snore. One little helpful fact is that the guttural G, is only before vowels. You'll never see it with another consonant. So it's always like re, ri, ro, ru, ran, ri, ru, ra. And the plain G is always with a consonant, like gluha, gnu, gnushka. It's always with another consonant, the plain G. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, so now we're going to talk about something called aspiration. And aspiration is basically like, it's the sound that you make that makes a breath of air come out. And so I want everybody to hold your palm in front of your hand close to your mouth, like in front of your mouth, but and kind of close to it, and say the word kill. Kill. What do you feel on the palm of your hand?
Breath.
Nothing
You
really.
you can feel your breath, right? That little breath of air. Kill. So that puff of air is that's called aspiration. And in English, we use aspiration a lot for these letters K, P, T, and the CH sound. Ch. So now let's try it again. Hold your palm in front of your face again, in front of your mouth. And this time, instead of saying kill, say skill, skill, skill. Do you still feel that breath or not?
Not as much.
Not as much.
Yeah, it's like a little bit different.
A little bit, yeah. It's not as strong for sure. You might still feel a little bit, but it's not like the same. And so that's called that's an unaspirated sound. That's an unaspirated K that you're saying when you say skill. So if you could try to practice making that same K sound without the S. So you want to try to say kill without a breath of air, and it will sound almost like gill, 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 and that's unaspirated. And so in Lakota, there's both aspirated and unaspirated letters. In Spanish, it's the opposite of English. They're all unaspirated. So like when the proper way to say taco isn't taco with a T sound, it's daco, daco. Or to have or to like, tiene, tengo. So those are unaspirated. But Lakota has both aspirated and unaspirated. So so we got to kind of practice to learn how to do both. We already know as English speakers how to do aspirated with a breathy K sound. So when we try to say the same K as in skill, but without pronouncing the S, it should sound like gil, gil, gil. And here's some Lakota words we could practice. Ska, skuya, skitaya, skepa. Ga, gu, gea, gin, goza. And you guys can go ahead and practice those with me on mute if you want. That's fine. Okay, so same thing with the letter P. So when we say pill in English, is there a breath of air on your palm or not? Pill. Pill.
Huh.
Okay, so now try to say spill. Spill. You still feel the breath of air. Spill. Spill.
Not as much.
Here.
Yeah, so we shouldn't be feeling it too much with the S on there. So we want to go ahead and try to make that same P sound without the breath of air, but also without the S. And it'll sound more like bill, 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 bill. And so examples of Lakota words that have that sound are spaya, spiola, uspe, spanla, bo, buza, ban, bihia, behan. And the same thing is going to apply to the letter T. So in English, we can try the word till, till, and we're going to feel that breath of air. We add the S on there, still, 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 still. The breath of air is gone. But we want to be able to make that T sound without the breath of air and without the S. So we practice, and it sounds almost like dill, dill, dill. And examples of Lakota words are staka, stola, gasto, stustea, washte, daku, dona, due, wote, dinskoya. Okay, so those are all the unaspirated plain T. So we had plain K, plain P, and plain T. So we want to practice saying these sounds without the breath of air, unaspirated. So these are the most common consonants, the most common stops in Lakota. And learning to hear is key to our ability to comprehend it. And being able to differentiate between aspirated and plain. Learning to pronounce them is essential to having a natural language pronunciation. They may sound like g, b, and duh at first, but they are not the same. So compare. I'm gonna say it with the plain K, then say it with the G. Ghana is not Ghana. Ghana is not Ghana. Booza is not booza. Booza is not booza. And daku is not daku. Daku is not daku. It's a very slight difference, but it's a real difference. And so that's why we don't use these letters to represent those. Because it's not, this sound is not the English G sound. And same with the B and same with the D. Okay, so let's talk about when we do have aspirated sounds, where we're gonna go back to the breathy sound, where you feel the breath of air when you say it. So listen to the difference between these words. Giza. Giza is to creak or squeak. Giza. Kiza. Kiza is to fight someone. Kiza. So guys, practice those. Say Giza. Giza. And try to say it without a breath of air. Giza. Giza. That's to creak or squeak. Now say it with the breath of air. Kiza. kiza. And that's to fight someone. So the letter H shows where Lakota speakers pronounce aspiration. This makes it easier to see, read, pronounce, and remember the similar words. So does this make sense? Does that H make sense to you guys?
watch day.
Uh-huh. And then the H, this is used in linguistics worldwide, globally, for aspiration. And I've always wondered about, what are some English words that we might be familiar with that use a H like that? And there's not too many, but things that have been introduced from other languages or other cultures I thought of, like Thai food. They spell it with a TH, so it's Thai. Or another one is the name Teresa is often spelled with a TH, Teresa. The herb thyme is spelled with a TH as well, THYME, thyme. So those are examples of aspirated sounds with H. So here, these are all going to be breathy sounding. So kute, ki, kua, kea, kinaji, unspekia. So that H represents that breath of air. Okay, same thing with the letter P. We're going to have aspirated P. And so here we have ipi, means they arrived there, they made it there. Ipi versus EP. EP. So what does this H mean right here?
It's aspirated.
Yeah, it's aspirated, so there should be a breath, right? You should feel that breath when you say it. So EP has no breath, EP has a breath, and that changes the meaning from, instead of they arrived there, it's he or she is full. They're satisfied from eating. EP. And so here's some other words. P, pude, pilamayaye. We're probably all familiar with these last two words, right? Pilamayaye and wopila. Pilamayaye, wopila. And so, without having this understanding of what that H means, our English brains are looking at PH and we're thinking it means, like, it makes an F sound, right? Like phone. So I understand why people get confused when they see this, but that's why we need to kind of raise awareness about what the H means there. Pilamaya and wopila. And same thing with the T. When we add the H on there, it makes it aspirated. So T, tipi, tehila, tiopa, tushu, t. So aspiration in Lakota is sometimes guttural. And when it's guttural, we're going to change that H and just add a little wablushka on there. So you guys all see this little wablushka here? The wablushka, the little bug. So cool is that's the aspirated K. Then the guttural aspirated K is k, kunshitku, kunshitku. So we know that's guttural just because of that little wablushka. Okay, so listen to the difference between these words. Maka, 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 maka. Wakan, 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 wakan. So the guttural aspirate shows guttural, or the H there with the wablushka shows guttural aspiration. Any questions?
Yeah.
So here's some more examples. Kanta, kata, ko, kunshi, yukan, anukan-san. So let's look at the aspirated guttural P sound, as in pasu. We can see the difference between the plain P. Ban is to holler. Pan is a purse. Nape, napre, nape, napre. Other examples, prasu, pran, napre, waproshtan, prapra, prehi, preta, prore. So we can listen to the difference between these words. This is another new symbol here. There's a little apostrophe here, as you notice. And so that's going to change. Here is just a plain K, gu. And then this one with the apostrophe is going to be ku, ku. Now this is the sound I had the most trouble learning as a Lakota language learner. So the letter or the marking apostrophe, it shows a glottal stop or an ejective. And that's an abrupt closure of the glottis to stop the flow of air after K. So ku, ku. So other examples, a, ku, I, ok o, kun, jik ala, kera. And we can see that same thing after the P. And so we listen to the difference between these words. Bo and o. Bo, o. E, nap I. Wanap I. Nap anung. And again with the T. Listen to the difference between these words. Nata, nata. Ta, tiza. Techa. Osiela. Tunya. Okay, and last but not least, we're going to talk about the C sounds. And as a learner, I went a long time. I thought there was only one C sound. I thought a C always meant a CH sound, and that was it. And come to find out, there are two sounds. Well, really three. There's the plain J sound. It's almost like a J. J. And then there's the aspirate J with the H on there. So what does H mean again, guys?
There's a breath.
There's a breath. So we're going to make that breathy when you say it. Ch. And then there's the ejective with the apostrophe. So that's a glottal stop. And that's going to sound like so there is no guttural version of C because it just does not exist in Lakota. I don't even know how that would sound. Probably exists in some language, but not in Lakota, thankfully, because that would be hard to do. So some examples of the C sounds. Plain C is Jonala, Jikala, Ijamana, Tawichu. The aspirated breathy CH sound is Chi, Si Chon, Chante, Tu Swecha. And the ejective C stop is O, Cheash. We can compare these two words, Wichala and Wichala. Wichala, Wichala. Do you guys hear that difference?
Huh.
It's a little bit subtle, but that's good that you hear it. Watch that. So I didn't hear that for a long time, like 4 years of learning that Lakota. And I remember I was saying like Ichabu, and it's not Ichabu, it's Ijabu for drumstick. That's just one example. I also said drum wrong. I used to say chanchega, but it's chanchega. The stress is on the first syllable. So these are some examples of words that I was saying wrong before I learned this consistent alphabet. And so this alphabet helped me correct some of my enunciation that I had mistaken. And so words like jichi and chichi, unichapi and unichapi, wichakhe, wichakhe, wichala, wichala, jin, chin, hechi, and hechi. These are all different words, different meanings. And so they should be spelled different. So the unaspirated C may at first sound like J and joke, but the J and J are not quite the same. So Jonala is not Jo-nala. It's a little bit different. So here are all the stops that we just talked about. I don't know why these T's are all kind of close together here, but so we got our plain letters G, B, D, and J. Then we throw the H on there, and that makes it aspirated, breathy, K, P, T, Ch. Then we throw a wablushka on that H, and that makes it not only aspirated but guttural. So that's where you find the K, P, and T. And then we throw the apostrophe on the end there, and that makes it a stop. So that's where you have okay. And these types of things are important because a lot of people do make these mistakes where they'll be praying to Unchi Maka, and instead of saying Unchi Maka, they'll say Unchi Maka. So instead of grandmother Earth, they're saying grandmother Skunk. Other examples of where it could be very misleading and misunderstood. So for example, what if someone types something about this word? What do they mean? Is this word doka, tchoka, or tchoka? So you see how the plain T down here, the guttural T's. And the stress is on first syllable here, second syllable here, first syllable here. And then the K is a guttural up here, plain K here and here. But all of them have they all sound very different. They all have very different meanings. But without these markings and this orthography, if someone just typed it how it sounds to them, it would all look the same. And so it would be very confusing for learners and even for some speakers too. Maybe the context could help them, but for the most part, it would be kind of confusing. So doka, tchoka, and toka. So consistent orthography is really helpful for, again, not only learners, but also fluent speakers if they take the time to learn it. And we were able to witness, Colin and I were at an event yesterday where Ben Blackbear Jr., fluent speaking elder and Lakota teacher who's been teaching for over 50 years, taught himself how to read Lakota. He said he didn't grow up reading Lakota. He was illiterate, but he was a speaker. But by reading every day, he taught himself